I agree that the straight guy gay world um, is just, at the time it wasn't that important. It became sort of irrelevant. I was My friends were my friends, and I do think back though. I mean, honestly, if I hadn't been with Rachel, that story would never have happened, because it would she was my entree into that world. I would never have had access or interest in it without her. And then it was interesting when she and I split. I was single and had some of the same friends, and I went out with them a few times to the clubs, and it definitely was not the same. And the reason it wasn't the same is because, she provided me with a kind of reason to be there, and the one that everyone understood. And without her, I mean, it was really uncomfortable. People would, I'd either be hit on, uh, or people thought I was coming out, and and didn't believe that I was, straight. And so it was a kind of a train wreck. And I learned very quickly that world without her uh, just wasn't going to work anymore. And then the truth is, of course, that all of us had to move on. There's one character that I guess you've already been introduced to him, a very prominent doctor uh, in the AIDS research community that we met, and he and Rachel really connected. And he began to spiral down just because of the drug use, and you can see it happening in the story. And after the story ended, I lost touch with him. But about 5 years after I moved to Miami, somebody said, did you see, I don't use his real name. Hector, his name is Hector in the story. Did you see what happened to Hector? Did you see New York Magazine? And he had made the cover of New York Magazine, but not for the reasons you would want. I think the headline was the latest victim of AIDS, and he had spiraled down to the point where he had lost his medical license and had become HIV positive, and literally looked like a ghost of his former self. That was 6-7 years ago. So when I found out that the book was going to be published, he was one of the few people that I really felt that I needed to reach out to, just to make sure that he would be okay, even with his name changed. It wouldn't take a sleuth to figure out who he was, that he would be okay with this portrayal. And I found out that he had gone to federal prison for 3 years for possession and dealing, was out, was sober, and I found him, and he could not have been lovelier about it. He said, "Hey, I'm so happy that you're doing well," and he basically gave me his blessing. And so I really appreciated that. The people that sort of stayed in that world, in that life, they tended to crash and burn. Most of my friends moved on. And, the issue was, if I had stayed with my ex-wife, I'm not sure, we could never answer the question, move on to what? Like, what was going to be the next thing? It wasn't going to be children. And she definitely had a propensity for living life in the extreme, for better or worse. And so that was another reason why I knew I had to get out. So this book now, I have friends that were in that world that are reading it, and most of them are like, wow. Not only is it a blast from the past, but we, wonder how we got through it. We were in some ways we were lucky, not to have become full-blown addicts or have had other like serious health stuff, not to mention the mental. It was a real roller coaster. You would go to those events. I showed them to you. It'd be so intense. You'd stay up 2-3 days, and then the crash afterwards could just be horrible. And then you rest up and do it again because, these were places where you would see your friends. You'd have a network of friends where you felt like you belonged. It was a tribal kind of connection, and that's a very powerful human instinct, I think, is to gather and feel like you're part of something larger.